Well, welcome to the Condor DM show. I'm here with a special guest, AJ Pickett. Don't
How's
get
it
it.
going?
I don't have to do a lot of introductions for this guy. Pretty well known YouTuber, right? He probably would be better off introducing me at this stage. But either way, we're here to have a good night. We're going to be talking about a lot of things about his background. Like we're doing an interview here. We're going to do a little bit about his background, talk about some of the games he's worked on, some of the things that inspired him, and just have a good night. We're going to dig into a lot of topics, right? So we're going to go with the most basic one, AJ. I do basic interviews. These aren't just like diving in as if people already know you. We're going to pretend that we got people that don't know you. So when did you start, and what brought you into the hobby? What was maybe the first game you really dove into?
So finding fantasy, choose your own adventure books, right? So that was my genesis. As so many Gen X people, I loved those finding. That really got me into reading in general.
Yeah.
So it was after that I started reading like C.S. Lewis and various other fantasy books. My dad had a big collection of pulp 1960s, 1950s sci-fi books, and so I know all of the classics, Heinlein and Asimov and Pohl and all those guys. So I was deeply immersed in that stuff. I also had an encyclopedia set. That when encyclopedias used to be thing, but it was way out of date by the time I got around to reading it. But yeah, I used to pour out through those, and that was my first D&D terrain. Actually, was my encyclopedia set. I just stack them up, and have
that's a
miniatures
neat
and stuff
idea.
on there. So I grew up in rural New Zealand, just on the at the base of Mount Doom, essentially, right in the central North Island. So it was cold as fuck all the time. Hypothermia was our every second lesson was, these are the signs of hypothermia. So yeah, when they talk about walking to school barefoot in the snow, actually did. So then it was about 1984, and my gran and I were at Woolworths supermarket, and there was the red box set. This is the Metz, the Frank
Metzer.
Mentzer, yeah. So it was his version, and I looked at that box sealed in plastic, and I was instantly hooked as soon as I saw the cover art with the dragon and the warrior. She picked it up. It was $11, and she rattled it and said, "It's very light." And I said, "Please, please, please." Like, okay, and she bought it for me. So thanks, Gran. That was my career. I like most of the kids that day. Those days, I didn't know anybody who had this or. So my entire school at this stage, I'd moved to the Coromandel, which was further north of North. Real nice, like tropical beaches and all that sort of stuff. Totally different environment from what I grew up in. Seafood, all that sort of stuff. My parents owned a restaurant, and then I just sort of shopped around, and I spent every evening on the ground just making up stuff using the basic rules, and making my own idea of how do you play this game, because I've never played it, but I was totally hooked. And then I found this guy who had just moved to the school, and he had some experience of it, and he was a year older than me, and he wanted to sell me the blue box, the expert, I think it was. Pick me, maybe yes, it was the expert, not the companion rules. So the irony is that we never actually played Beck Me. We then hooked up with Ashley and my friend. So it was JP and Max and Ashley and me, and occasionally a couple of other guys, and we played AD&D. And then we started to get curious about other role-playing games that we heard about that were popping up. So one of the early ones was Traveller. And
one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, fantastic. Those little black books, forever in my heart. Complicated. We didn't do a lot of space travel shit, because who wants to do math? But we rolled up a lot of characters and had a lot of shotgun fights with flak jackets and spaceports.
At least the ones that made it.
Yeah, the ones that made it through character creation. Yeah. But fantastic game, and foundational for the idea of rolling up your. I mean, Traveller was session 0. This is why you talk to the old school people and we've been doing that forever. Roll up the characters. You get confused about these people who say, I've got this character and I want to talk to the DM and stuff. It's like, what are you talking about? What are you making characters by yourself for? You make your characters with your DM and shape the whole campaign in the process. Anyway, it's like, yeah. Anyway, so then along came Palladium, and Palladium was my baby. Max bought Justice, what was it? The team one.
Oh, geez.
Anyway,
I know.
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know the name either.
Yeah, so there was a supplement that came out with the first edition of Heroes Unlimited, which was they had a kind of a world setting, because Heroes Unlimited doesn't have a world setting. It's just sort of set in contemporary 1980s, and it's wonderfully dated. Like, you can go back and read that book, and all of the equipment section and stuff is the prices and things and availability and computer systems that were around in the 1980s. It's a perfect snapshot of that era. And it was a street level heroes game. They didn't really have mega heroes. You didn't really have a Superman or that sort of thing.
No.
But it was complicated because it was the sort of the first generation of games that came out after AD&D. And so it had a lot of the bones of D&D in there, but it was a totally new way of handling damage. Yeah,
very
definitely.
gaming.
Had a whole different way of handling damage that was much more realistic, with armor that actually took hits and was ablative. So it's sort of multiple sort of layers of armor protection. So you'd have to get past the force field and then get through the body armor.
It was
very
better
cinematic
for the imagination.
Yeah, we describe it as like the combat is like bullet time in the Matrix, where it slows down. In your imagination, everything is playing out in slow motion. And to anybody watching it, it's like watching paint dry, and we're all talking in garble because we're talking about roll with punch, full impact. I'm going to do a crescent kick. How many attacks have you got this round?
Well, in AD&D, it's hit, miss. In AD&D, but then here you are needing to think about all the different actions.
I'm going to auto parry. Have you got automatic dodge? I'm like, no, I don't. So I have to give up an attack to do the thing. Yeah,
and being able to interact and be defensive, even though it's not your turn, being able to play that
nimble, which is the 5th edition improvement, which I'm playing with my local group now, is very much like that. It borrows from the idea of the action economy from Heroes Unlimited. That if you've the way that nimble handles initiative is it just determines how many actions you have in the first round.
I think WotC should take lessons from how fast the extension of action economy is in Palladium.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast is stuck. They can't change their system. That's the unfortunate thing. Without rejigging the entire thing, they'd have to do a whole new edition of the game, and it's just too lumbering a beast. And they do everything 5 years in advance anyway. So
and you got player expectation right now. That's just too much. It's a switch over right now would probably turn off a good portion of their customer base, and they know it.
Yeah,
I think that's a good reason. But I do love like what you're talking about here, Palladium. You're right on, and you've already answered the first two of my questions, which was the basic one, but the New Zealand thing and the scene on there. But you're telling me there wasn't a giant scene on New Zealand gaming at the time when you started in. It was still
not
like
at
a
all.
new thing, right? And
yeah, absolutely. No conventions. Yeah, there was like one gaming store in the major city. There's no hobby support in local regional towns at all. So it was very much like, what are you guys doing? We read comics and we played AD&D mostly, and then every other game that we played, we just sort of would hang out.
A lot of guys.
I don't think Ashley ever played any of the other games with us. It was just the younger guys who were interested in the new games.
We get a lot of people around today that will, when I'm saying like I played and ran in 30, 40, 50 games, they're like, yeah, right. I'm like, that's a lot of guys did stuff like that. That is not uncommon. That's not me bragging. I'm not trying to have an ego about it. It was just like, I can cover all these games because I have that rule of I only cover games I've encountered, right, and played or game mastered.
Yep.
And I was like, no, this is common. If you actually talk to guys that actually gamed for real back in the old school, a lot of them did Traveler, Palladium. I mean, some people stuck to D&D, let's be real. But you get a lot of guys like yourself and me that are creators. We're going to jump around to games. Like you get to Traveler. There's no way you can't appreciate it because it's Traveler goes from organized DMing to now you're just reacting. And reacting is how you build your trust with your players. If you react stupidly, like if the world doesn't make sense, they don't trust you.
Yeah.
If the world makes sense, they trust you. Pretty
Also,
simple.
we were from the get-go homebrewers, right? So we didn't buy adventures because we bought the core books because that's all we could afford. We're talking about shipping to New Zealand and a limited stock of things that
Yeah.
get sent by one supplier, Blackwood Gale, that
Yeah.
arrives in one shipping container to one gaming store, and then it's divvied up and sent, and whoever can afford it. So we're talking like $60 for a gaming book back in the 1990s.
It
You know?
wasn't too different in Canada. You might think we're right next to America, and suddenly we're going to have like a privilege, but it was like it wasn't too far off of what you're saying was exactly my encounter with it. Like they talk about modules today. I'm like, no, I'm like you. I got the game books. I'd have the core, but it's like it was hard to get modules or anything. So I'd be like,
Yeah, they just
yeah,
weren't
I'm
there.
going to make up my own ventures, do sandboxing, as we know,
Yeah.
right? From
The
Travelers.
one saving grace was magazines, right? So
Yeah.
Dungeon Magazine and Dragon Magazine. We didn't actually get Dungeon Magazine. We only got Dragon Magazine. So,
Right.
but Unearthed Arcana was an absolute like mind-blowing expansion of our game. And of course, all of the classes and things that we saw in Dragon Magazine. I played a duelist, which was from Dragon Magazine in the early days, and that was one of my favorite characters ever. It was such a non-adventuring class. Essentially, a duelist is a person who picks fights with targets
Yep.
with the intention of killing them because they're paid to, but they cannot be discovered doing that because it's an honor duel. And if you're discovered paying somebody to professionally assassinate somebody during an honor duel, everybody involved get executed. So it was a fun class to play. And he was a real like sort of one-trick pony. Yes, he was a swordsman, but not well
It's
suited to
creative role
adventuring.
play.
Oh
It's
yeah,
great. It's outside of a dungeon where you just hit, miss. To now you're playing a character where you're going to do all this really nuanced, complicated stuff. Like when I hear guys go, "Oh, we go really quick from the town to the dungeon," I'm like, "You missed out a lot on what you can do in the game. There is
yeah,
a lot you can do in the game. I like doing old city campaigns just to be able to explore exactly what you're talking about. Like do stuff where it's not just in a dungeon. I think that's why a lot of creatives like me and you probably get sick of the dungeons after so long because you can only do so much there, but you realize they start leaning into it. Just in some
yeah.
cases, not that well supported. But Unearthed Arcana was magic, baby.
Oh, yeah,
It was
absolutely.
magic.
So
Yeah.
the saving grace is that when you're in a dungeon, you present mysteries which need an expert to decipher. So you go back to the city and you hunt down a scribe or a sage or somebody
Yeah.
who'll do research for you. So what are you spending your adventure money on? One, all your equipment should be getting absolutely devastated during these dungeon delves and stuff. Your plate armor is not going to survive trekking through, a dungeon or whatever. If
Exactly.
you're playing indestructible armor, then you need to get your head on straight.
You shouldn't be getting
Don't
filthy rich, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
Training,
absolutely.
new
Yeah.
armor, all that should
Not
be
only, yeah, but
constant.
training, like if you're not doing anything in character to train in between levels, when you level up, it shouldn't make any difference whatsoever until you go back to
Yeah,
town and spend some months training.
agree.
It's like it takes a year to learn a spell. Look at the spell crafting rules and stuff like that. It's like, don't tell
Mhm.
me that you just level up in the middle of a dungeon and now you can cast fireball. It's like, fuck off.
Well, it's all for slow gameplay. But even in the game, like I think a lot of guys didn't get the wargaming aspect of some of the stuff. Like, look, they leaned away from wargaming, but there were some aspects of wargaming that surprised people. I see guys still to this day playing AD&D 1E where they go in with 5 characters with DM suggesting it. I'm like,
Mm.
well, it doesn't have to be the meat grinder that you're thinking. Actually, the game wants you from levels 1 to 3 to avoid almost all combat. And
Yeah,
it doesn't mean you're not
absolutely.
forced into it, and you'll play smart when you are. But
Yeah.
there's moral things like you can kill the boss of the group, get them to run away. But you should be avoiding not just the dragon out in the forest. You should be avoiding the goblins.
You should be careful about lifting and investigating rocks. I had a Scion
Yeah,
character, Belchimerol. He
yeah.
had 4 hit points, right, for the first couple of levels. I think my second level dice roll is like 1. And and yeah, my DM got a little pissed off with me, like checking under rocks and stuff, and he says, "Oh, there's a poisonous spider. I got bitten, died." He felt bad about it. We engineered a resurrection of this character, one of many in the first couple of levels of this character, because
You're
he's
a
a really
farmer.
good character.
You're
Yeah,
not meant. It's like they say you're going to play a hero. It's like, yeah, not till level 9.
yeah, yeah.
Like that's
He
really that's the truth of it, right?
Belchimerol's the only character I've ever had who legitimately through gameplay went all the way to the top, and that was through a 9-year campaign. Yeah, Solution is a world
That's
which is very
proper.
real. Oh, that was proper. That was my second gaming group when I moved to Hamilton City and met them through university. So that was
It's meant to be slow.
3.5 era. So Wizards of the Coast had taken over at this point. 3.5 was my reintroduction to D&D after many years of mostly just playing Palladium, because the original AD&D group sort of went our ways. And then I got back into D&D playing because it was like the lingua franca, right? So it was everybody knows D&D, so you can start off with that and then you can branch out into other games. And I got them playing Palladium in the end. But we were pretty solid D&D players. We had a couple of breaks during 4th edition because 4th edition just wore us down. And we switched over to playing Fantasy Age, and which is the Dragon Age. Fantasy Age was pretty good.
Yes, it was.
And a lot of other games, Call of Cthulhu and all that sort of stuff. But back in the original days, we also played Paranoia and Toon and Call of Cthulhu, and various other classics. And a lot of the Palladium books.
No wonder
as well.
you ended up on my channel talking to me. I started to get it now. Like, AJ's a pretty big guy. Why is he here? But I know I'm covering a lot of stuff other people aren't. I'm covering a variety of games, and I'm like, I'm thinking some of the old school guys will end up here. But I was like, not realizing, even though you're a big YouTuber, you're an old school guy.
I'm an old school guy,
and meaning if I'm covering all these different games, and you're anything like myself, I'm covering Toon. I'm covering Paranoia, and I love Paranoia. Gee,
I love Paranoia so much.
It's a stressful thing for players.
Every story about Paranoia is like, and how did your character die that time? Didn't know how it operated. Didn't know how to change the battery on a fucking laser gun, and blew up and died.
Oh man! And if you had a certain kind of game master, it was like you play 2 rounds of that, and you're like, okay, I need a break. I need a break. Why? It's like anyone asked you if like a good game master ran that, you were stressed. Like that was not like D&D. You don't keep going back. You take a break after a couple.
We didn't even go as deep into Paranoia as you can go. So like all the factions and stuff like that, the secret factions. Like I was my character was part of the mutant factions. We didn't even get into that because we were too confused by trees. For fuck's sake.
That's the first time I tried. That's exactly what happened to us. The little basic shit was what screwed me up going.
He's describing like so. For the viewer at home who hasn't played Paranoia, you're basically, this is based on Logan's Run, the movie Logan's Run. So everybody is in the great big arcologies, like great big dome, right? They've never seen nature before. They've never seen an old person because everybody gets retired by the age of 30. Your name is like Bob Red or Bob Red 2. You're the second Bob. Your security clearance is red, which is basic. And you're just Bob, right? And you're some member of a faction or whatever. You've got some sort of a trained skill, maybe. And you know absolutely nothing other than what the computer tells you. Right. So you're a vat-grown human. And then you go outside into nature. You've got to learn things.
And you got to get players that appreciate, like you like, see, I picked the right players too. I would have picked a player like you. Some players don't understand how it's like, you got to role play ignorance, dude.
Yeah, you got to be.
You got to appreciate, because it'd be more fun actually to be able to understand the ignorance of your character. Is to really go, wow, what's this?
Yeah, you got to think back to when you were a child, right, and what you didn't understand about the world, and put yourself in that mindset.
But if you can get there, it's one of the most amazing games you can encounter right there.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah,
it really is,
because it was nothing else like it. Nothing else like it at all. And it was hilarious and tragic.
Metamorphosis Alpha is a bit of ignorance when you go into it, like because you get to a part where there's like a level where it's like you're outside.
Yeah,
there's like
there's a lot of Metamorphosis Alpha in the mutation tables in this, because that was where I fell in love with randomly rolling tables to make.
That's purposely why I'm bringing that game up, is because I was reading that going Metamorphosis Alpha, and I said I'll bring that up at one point to him. He's going to know exactly. I said there's no way reading this you don't know that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I said I was reading through that going, yeah, he knows Metamorphosis. I was like, I knew you knew quite a few things from reading through it, but yes, actually, it's we'll hit. You want to know what? We're doing some great game talking, but let's get in a little bit into YouTube, because we're going to go into some other stuff. We'll get more into Palladium, I promise you. But you started at YouTube in 2006. right? I know you have over 100,000 K subs now, and you have probably tens of millions, probably like 40 plus million views by this point.
60 million.
You started, well, the earliest content that you have up right now is crafting. I know you're a crafting guy. Though you are known for the lore content, which we've already established. Lore deep dives in on like armor and stuff like that, and you do like a few other things. Anyway, let's talk about your start, your evolution, and your experience on YouTube, and why you committed yourself to this whole thing.
Yeah. So I had no idea what was going to happen. So this originally started with DM Scotty, the DM's Craft, and tabletop crafting terrain, because that was something that I was very into. As a kid growing up in the 1980s, I didn't have action figures or anything like that. I had a lump of plasticine, and so if I wanted to make toys for myself, I'd literally make them. So so sculpting and making stuff with my hands has always been my passion and focus and stuff, and drawing, to entertain myself, because you've got 2 TV channels and a lot of time on your hands out in the country. And also back then we didn't have miniatures and things, because I think our gaming group had a total of 6 pewter miniatures. That was it. It was all theater of the mind stuff. But I like the idea of making characters and monsters and stuff. I got Fimo, which is that moldable plastic which you can bake in the oven and it turns hard. These days everybody uses green stuff.
I'm learning here. I'm learning.
Yeah.
I didn't know a lot about this. I've heard about it, but I didn't know a lot about it. But go on.
Yeah, so we didn't have the 2-part epoxy putty stuff that we have these days. So there was Fimo and there was plasticine, and those were my toys that I played around with. So I would make a plasticine figure, and then I would stick all the armor and weapons and all that sort of stuff onto them. So they were my action figures. So leap forward to the 90s and early 2000s, and I'm getting back into playing D&D again. I'm learning paper crafting. So paper crafting is recycled materials. So I don't want to spend a lot of money, and also they're just in the stuff here in New Zealand to buy. So if I want to make dungeon terrain and all that sort of stuff, I have to literally make it by hand. And I want it the easiest and most cost-effective way of doing it. I hook on to DM Scotty. He's making some early videos on this subject. I join his message board forum. I become, because I spend a lot of time online, I sort of gravitate towards becoming an admin of message forums.
There was no mainstream support for any of this stuff. When you
no,
were doing it. Like there was individuals like you say DM Scotty, but there was no mainstream nothing. For this stuff at all.
And DM Scotty is still doing it. He's got his own system called the D6, Easy D6, which I highly recommend if you want a rules light, fast game. He knows what he's talking about. Anyway, so I decided to make some YouTube videos to talk to my audience, essentially the members of the thing, because we're doing crafting competitions amongst ourselves. No prizes or anything like that, just, acclaim. So I would make a video talking about essentially like a video newsletter for them. And then, so I'm showing them me crafting stuff, and I'm showing them how I use the paper craft. So my pioneering sort of innovation to this was printing out dungeon maps on the printer, and then essentially sticking them to cardboard and doing layered cardboard that way. So instead of painting the terrain, I would just print out stuff and then layer it like an elevation thing. DM Scotty's innovation was we had Dwarven Forge, right? But if you've ever played with Dwarven Forge, and this is no condemnation of Dwarven Forge, I wouldn't, because I like the guy. And I like, Dwarven Forge deserves every accolade it has. And also a huge pioneer in the hobby as well. So the problem with Dwarven Forge is you can't see over the walls if you're sitting around a table. So you can lose sight of you have to keep craning over top of the walls to see what's going on. DM Scotty said, look, let's just reduce the size of the walls. So we'll call it, instead of 3D, we'll call it 2.5D, because it's just a little bit 3D. I'm like, that's all you need is a representation of walls. Okay, so then my innovation on top of that is, instead of painting the cardboard because it warps and it's a pain in the ass, and I don't like using massive amounts of paints, it's expensive. I'm just going to print out stuff on my printer and stick it on there. That way, I hook on to Heroic Maps, Joe and Sarah Belton, and said, look, your maps that you're making for Hero Quest are really good, but if you could make the walls just a little bit thicker, then I can print them out and paste them on the thing, and I'll promote your channel. And if you can make some custom maps. He's like, yeah, sure, fine. And so he hooks onto that. He makes a set. Then another innovator, the DMG Info, Gareth, over in Australia, he makes a modular set of tiles. He says, okay, if you have this set, you can make most of the dungeons that you need, because nobody had really thought about what exactly do you need to make if you want to make, more and more dungeons and things. And he says, okay, you need like 6 corridors. He actually worked it out. You need this and that and that. This other guy, Wylock, he fixed a lot of the scaling issues and got it really precise, so everything fit together really well. Black Magic Craft uses crafting foam and stuff. He's still going strong, but he was an early innovator in that group as well. So we all had aspects that we brought to it, and a lot of that has persisted. There's Crooked Staff is carrying on with my print and paste
Such
techniques.
a legendary group of people.
Yeah.
In the hobby. Every name you're mentioning, I've heard, and are now at this stage extremely well known people. That had to be pretty awesome to be.
Yeah, because it was grassroots and it was very practical. So it was talking about stuff that people could do at home on their own. And my favorite thing about the print and paste technique is that it's something you can do with your kids. It's very safe and easy. There's no hazardous chemicals. All you need is a printer, a crafting knife, or a pair of snips, scissors, and some glue stick. Hence the name, the Mighty Glue Stick, that I got as my nickname early on. People were very confused about that. Why are you called the Mighty Glue Stick when you're a lore channel? It's like, because I started off as, I'm an artist, I'm a crafter.
You didn't start as being wanted to be a YouTuber. You started off as just doing cool videos, part of this whole innovation thing, right?
Yeah. No idea. Like, my audience was 10 or 20 people in my message forum. That was it.
Yeah.
And then one day I had a toilet roll that I'd hot glued. I got a hot glue gun, and I was making a roper, and I started talking about the lore of the roper just as I was doing the practical thing. And people were like, wow, you remember that? Like, you didn't reference a book the entire time that you were doing that. That's all just rattling out of your head. And I'm like, yeah, I know ropers. And it's like, oh, talk about the next thing, make another monster. And then the crafting fell to the wayside when my audience said, oh, no, we don't really care about the crafting. We just want to hear about the lore. And
so it's one of those things you start getting the reaction you're not even expecting.
No, yeah. So
it was one of those
the audience pushed me into this. Yeah.
You start doing something, next thing you know, oh, okay, that could a great reaction. And you find out, like, people want to hear about this stuff. That is an awesome story. What a crazy backstory for crafting.
Yeah, so I didn't do it for the money, didn't do it for the fame. Like, there was no money for the first 3 or 4 years. I didn't even realize you could get paid on YouTube.
See, this is educational for me, because I knew you're a lore guy. I knew you're a deep dive guy. I didn't know how involved you were with every name there that you mentioned. Like, I know all of those guys, every one of those guys. I mean, I've been around this for a minute. I think, as you know, I've been around here for a long time. So it's like, I know every one of those guys coming up. And you're right. There was, even in the 90s, at a certain point, before we get to plastic miniatures, we don't have a lot of stuff. But you knew this was a crafting hobby. I mean, I knew that from the 80s. You go back to the 80s here, and they'd be like, we don't play with miniatures much. It's mostly theater of the mind, which is true. Now, guys that came in later into the old school, a lot of them just think our whole history is miniatures. It's like, well, it's not. But we had a great painting hobby part. We had guys that are starting to craft, but it's not public. You can go over to, like, Mike's house, and he'd have an amazing table, but he might have been a war gamer too, and they were already crafting war gamers, right?
Yeah. So it's like war gaming. That was the legacy of war gaming. Yeah. So these guys, like Gary Gygax and those guys, and this is something that I want to see come back, is the sand table, right? So it's a table which is a sand pit, essentially. Yeah. So if you want a river and terrain and all that stuff, you just heap up the sand to whoever you need it, and then scatter down some green flock for grass and stuff like that.
And you start getting it out. But it's
Gary was notorious for stubbing his cigarettes out in it, by the way.
Yeah, but the hobby was always going to, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but the hobby was always attracting that. And that's obviously from wargaming. But it's like, when it came to making stuff at home, most guys couldn't make nothing. Like, most guys wanted to. Most guys, almost every guy I know, if you go back now, if you talk to guys now, like, I make this, and they're like, when do you start making that? Well, I watch, and they'll mention the names we're talking about here, I started what that's who I got my idea from. The Black Magic, that's who I got my idea from. Like every name you're mentioning, DM Scotty, yeah, can I see him do this? And that's where I got my idea from. And so it's like the influence those guys had is probably bigger than they probably even acknowledge now.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if they went into the world, it would shock them just how many times their names in 2026 will still get mentioned.
I mean, we had no idea. And this is the thing, you don't realize that, like, when you're the first people using Google Hangouts to run live games, for instance, that was Underwood, Woodward.
Geez, I love it.
And from him on the Facebook came the YouTube RPG Brigade. And these guys were big. They were the main sort of click influencers at the time.
Oh, yeah.
Back before there was any paid DMs or anything like that. In fact, earning money from the hobby was anathema. Like that would get you publicly ridiculed. So today's environment would horrify them. They'd have effigies of Ginny D burning on the stake.
But the work they did, you can still go to, like, they talk about covering games today. I'm like, have you guys heard, like, you go back and there's crafting, but then there's like Samwise Tim. Go back to him covering games, man.
Samwise 7.
His coverage is so good. Yep. I don't care what anybody says. You go watch one of his videos, you'll walk away knowing more, understanding more. I mean, the guy was brilliant. And if the guy was doing that content today properly, oh man. But back then, you're right. He'd always say, I'm not in this for the money, but you could tell, you could watch his and you'd hear passion.
Yeah.
That's sold, man.
So Matt Click sort of pioneered the walking around in the parking lot, talking to the camera. And Barker, who was a good friend of his, and in that RPG Brigade, Barker came up with the idea of doing a narrative roll. So instead of a skill check or something like that where you roll the dice, he says, okay, what we'll do is we'll do a throwback scene in your character's history where he's talking to it. Where did you learn that? Tell us where you learned that. And if your story is good, you pass. I'm like, fuck, that's so good. That is so good.
Parker was a shit talker out of those couple guys. Like Matt Click was really nice, like really nice.
Matt Click was
Parker would have a little toss up with you.
He was a musician as well. He was very creative.
Oh yeah, he was. Yep.
But so there was lots, and from the player base, we came up with the one shot group where basically just find people to play games online via streaming with, and there were a lot of
were popular.
Was Unfortunately, that led to my first downfall on social media and got me into like really concentrating on YouTube in the first place, because I got socially ostracized because I basically got thrown out of the admin position on the group through mostly my own fault. But yeah, there was some dirty fucking tactics that they did, just the worst.
I try to tell some of the guys that some of I said they all think what they're doing now is doing. I'm like, the games have been being played for a long time.
So
a lot longer than they know about.
We innovated. We played everything, man. We played all of the worst games you can name these days. We also played like sessions of Miffarog, very controversial content creator. Very crunchy game, very realistic rules for everything. Because he used it to educate his kids on
homeschooling.
Yeah, homeschooling.
He was doing homeschooling,
but it was a really good sort of true to the era and true to the vibe of Viking times.
Norway.
And it was controversial, not just because of who he was, but because of how accurate it was to actual Viking era times and the culture back then, which was not nice to outsiders and things like that, and kind of brutal, and the mythology and things was fairly brutal.
Would it fit today's world?
No, not at all. But it stands. It stands as a historical document, you could say. And that was not inspired by D&D. That was, I think it was the Lord of the Rings game was his main game that ended up inspiring that one. Yeah, probably. Yeah. I watched quite a few of his videos, and it was Varg Vikernes, I think his name was.
Yeah, I actually talked to him directly for a while, so I know exactly who you're talking about.
I had one interaction with him, and I was just like, "Oh, okay, no, we're not gonna meet eye to eye on anything." Because he was arguing a basic bit of biology, and I'm a I'm a university trained biologist, so yeah. So as my YouTube channel grew, I eventually was earning as much as I was earning working at a genetics lab. And so I decided to quit the genetics lab job, and everybody thought I was fucking nuts. Like, are you crazy? And I was like, yeah, but I've got to do it. I've got to do it because I can't stand coming into work at the lab anymore. It's just driving me absolutely. There was mornings I couldn't get out of bed. I honestly, no matter what they threatened me with, I was just like, I can't mentally do this. I'm a monkey.
freedom.
I'm a monkey putting myself into a cage.
Not everyone can do what they love to do, but if you can, and
You
now
have to.
today's devices, they tell you do what you love to do. Well,
Yeah.
that's
The
exactly
old saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I work my ass off, but I never feel like I'm like 9 to 5 or anything. Yeah, I'm the worst boss I've ever had. I will literally work myself to exhaustion every day doing what I do, but I just love it.
You got to be somebody who gets stuff done, because like there's some people out there under pressure. It's almost better to put pressure on them because they'll get something done. But if you say, do it in your own time, be like 5 years later, you finish the book?
Yeah.
No, not yet. But if you give them you give the same person 8 months, book's done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's some, I'm like you. I can go, okay, I could have 5 years, but I'll get it done in 8 months.
Yeah. I'm a New Zealander, so we don't believe in the word impossible. Like we climb the tallest mountain and all that sort of shit because it's there, right?
Yeah.
And so you tell me, do the complete history of the Netherall Empire or something. Has it ever been done? No.
No, that would be awesome. No.
Has it ever been done?
The complete history, I don't think so at all.
Yeah. But like the guy who made the 3-hour-long history of Warhammer 40K video, that's the vibe, right? It's like it hasn't been done, but once it's done, it stands as an absolute monument. And so that's what I'm pursuing. Is like I want to be the encyclopedia D&D, right? So I want a library of videos where you can go in and the lore is preserved. No corporation can destroy it. It's there for everybody.
Well, that was my aim doing some of the streams here with all these different games. I wanted to do fact-based coverage. I kept telling people, and people ask me like, why are you doing games that aren't getting a lot of views now? And I'm like, well, look, I'm a YouTuber, but I'm also someone who's passionate like yourself about the hobby. I'm like, I want people in 50 years to be able to look back and go, what's this stuff? And then what I say is based on reality. And I want game designers today who don't know a lot about our history and certain things about game design that's old and forgot. Like we're going back to character death. It's just like there's stuff that's not even mentioned anymore. It's not even a bad idea. It's just not mentioned. It could be as modern as any other idea. But I'm like, if no one talks about these 10 games or all these different, you won't know. The game designers won't know. And there's a lot of young guys that want to make games. And I'm like, I want you to hear this.
Yeah, there's two types of censorship, right? And the one we're talking about is the dangerous one. It's where something is just not talked about. It's deliberately forgotten. So that's where we come in. It's like, look, Wizards of the Coast is now stocked by a bunch of people who have no interest in the lore. 50 years of literary history. We're talking about the Forgotten Realms world setting is more complicated than any fantasy franchise ever made. I would argue even more so than Lord of the Rings, which is saying something. Because that's just one guy's work. Oh yeah. So the problem is, so I get cut to years later. I've been doing the YouTube thing for a long time. I get contacted through very mysterious means, stalking, basically an agent coming in on my Discord channel and probing me with questions. Then I get this reach out from a company called Took Games over in Canada, and they're interested in hiring me on as a D&D lore consultant because they're making some sort of Forgotten Realms D&D game. And I signed some
Dark Alliance. Let me actually mention that if I'm right, it's called Dark Alliance, right? Dark Alliance. Yes.
So the working title was Fellowships, the Fellowship of the Hall, or something like that. Mithril.
It was around Icewind Dale, and you were dealing with Drizzt and some other details there.
Yep. So is the characters from R.A. Salvatore's long line of books, and I've read all of those books as research, right?
Mhm.
Read them back to back. The one where the one novel where Wolfgar was recovering from being taken to the Nine Hells and is an alcoholic the entire time is a tough read, and I think it was a tough write for R.A. Salvatore because it's like he melded two books together, and
Mhm.
he'll probably know what I'm talking about. It
Mhm.
was yeah, that was a bit of a sour note, and but the rest of the series is pretty damn good. And his
Mhm.
cleric, the cleric quintet with Cataly Bonadus, also fantastic book series.
Yep.
Anyway, so they hired me on, and I think one of the first questions they sent me a video thingy where the characters are running along, and I looked up and in the sky is the moon, and I said, sent a message back saying, "Where's the Tears of Saloon?" And he's like, "What?" It's like there's a string of little meteor thingies behind the moon, which tells you that you're on Faerun and looking at the fucking moon. So if you don't have that in there, every fan of the game is going to go, "This isn't Faerun." And like, okay, that we hired the right person. That's exactly what we wanted, you know. So yeah,
that is the right.
yeah,
Yes.
cut a check and send me. So I was working essentially on a pro rata basis. So they would send me questions, and I would basically bill them for the hours that it took me to do it. And if you look at my channel, and there's a video on the Uthgard barbarians, that was essentially me just packaging up all the research on that region and that people, and
Yeah.
making a video for them instead of having to write a big essay and stuff. But the research that I did for Took, and the ideas and stuff that I contributed didn't just get used by Took in that game. In fact, a lot of that stuff that I did for them didn't even make it into that game, but it did show up later. And here's where the controversial thing comes in, and why I would never work for Wizards of the Coast or a corporation.
Fair enough.
So Took gets bought by Wizards of the Coast. They get bought on board, and bought as a subsidiary company. And Took was overjoyed at this because they thought, great, not only have we gotten approval of this game that we've been making with IP, which we don't even own. So it was a Hail Mary on their part. And so they get brought on board, and they think, oh, great, you know, they're going to release some budget to us, and we'll be able to buy all the assets and stuff that we need to actually finish the game off properly. That didn't happen. So they rushed it out and published what they had. It was clunky as fuck. It was full of bugs. The combat was an absolute disaster, and a lot of the story elements and things like that got made for it were just sort of add-ons, you know, lore tablets and things like that you could get. As soon as Wizards of the Coast got on board and they realized that they had me on their payroll sort of thing, they started firing lots and lots of main writer tasks at me. Like, not a law consultant, but they were asking me, you know, they were asking me approval of this, and what do you think of this? And can you write 10 law tablets about the 10 towns that this character is going to leave around the place for collectibles for people who like completing the law aspect of games? And like, I wasn't hired on for this, you know. This is a big writing task and stuff, and I'm not getting credited for this at all. And I think we should like renegotiate things. Anyway, meanwhile, there's my dad has some medical problems, and I have to prioritize my YouTube channel for my main income and
Yeah.
family. And I just said, okay, too hard basket. You guys can fuck off. I'm not going to work for you anymore. Just, you know, I wasn't hired on. I wasn't on staff. I was just a consultant. So I was just like, yeah,
Because
no,
it's about them, not you.
yeah.
That's
So I'm like,
when a company like that takes over, it's like they want your life.
yeah. Well, Wizards of the Coast looks at creative people as assets that they can burn out and then get rid of. That was
Oh,
entirely apparent. Entirely
hang on.
apparent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so the only person that I sort of dealt with that you would know is I got a little bit of the stuff that Chris Perkins was working on at the time, the Chewinga.
Yeah.
And Mike Mills fired a couple of questions at me. One about a giant with a big sword shoved through him on the side of a mountain, and he says, "What do you think this is?" I'm like, "There's nothing about that in Forgotten Realms lore." And he said, "Yeah, but what if there was?" And I'm like, "Well, now you're asking me to write Forgotten Realms lore, and I'm not comfortable doing that. So I don't know. Well, I guess it could be this, or one of the sons of Grumsh, or something. Anyway."
They always have to have their own.
What they did,
yeah, they should have emphasized more of what was already in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what they did get out of me was the whole buried flying city thing, because this has to do with Calvin's Cairn, right, where the adventure is set, because it was dealing with Crenchinnabon from R.A. Salvatore's story. And Kelvin's Cairn is essentially a monument mountain where Kelvin was they were very firm on me that it had to be a cloud giant. I'm like, why is it not a frost giant, called Kelvin? It's like, yeah, it would make sense if it was a frost giant.
I'm
but anyway,
100% with you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's on some sort of flying city ship, and I said, well, okay, that's probably one of the Netherese flying cities that he's taken. And it crash landed, and where because he got into a fight with Tempest, the god Tempest decided that this warlord was important enough to actually challenge him, and of course he wiped the ground with him. And then because he respected the guy and his cojones actually fighting a god, he rained down meteors and it formed Kelvin's Cairn, this mountain. And so underneath the mountain is a buried Netherese city. This idea gets taken and put into later D&D adventures.
It's a beautiful idea.
The shattered monuments and all that sort of stuff is all based on stuff that I was sort of rattling on
but
about.
See, you're going on you're here's what they don't get. Like I don't mind the Forgotten Realms, but a lot of the old realms were created as is and thrown out there. I always said I never really preferred those because they weren't gamey. And what I meant was I liked Mystera. And Mystera was built from Sandbox. So it's built on gaming with it and building it up. Like Forgotten Realms is just created. Mystera is created through gaming. As you're building up some of Forgotten Realms, of course, I'm with you. I'd rather just emphasize what's already there, maybe even gaming it more and build through gaming through some of the stab or something. But either way, that sounds more like a Mystera thing, what you're doing there. That's why I like the idea.
Yeah.
And that sounds like it'd be more in the mindset like you're a gamer. But this is also talking about your evolution as a YouTuber, because we're talking about the YouTube stuff. I don't think this gets away from the YouTube stuff. This is just saying, look at you. From becoming a YouTuber, here you are working with WotC, from just being a guy doing lore on YouTube. I mean, that's first off, look at the crafting history. I think that's beautiful, but just so lucky, dude. You're a very lucky guy. Think about just doing lore that you're on. Like we like lore. Next thing you know,
way over here in New Zealand. Yeah, it's crazy.
But I could tell it inspired you, because when you get backing like that, when you know you got something and you get inspired, I know that's probably why you got into the historian stuff, is why you started taking it serious, is because, well, man, it's not many people are going to get this.
Yeah.
So if you're going to get it, become the real thing.
That was what I realized, that I had a responsibility, right? That to get the law right, and to research it and present it as it is, but also just to get across to people that there's no cohesive history, there's no cohesive world setting. It's all mythology and all sorts of stuff, and lots of writers' different concepts, because every time they write a novel, they've got leeway to just invent whatever they want.
Well, that's why you're getting after them, saying they should just emphasize and clean up what they have, make it something that comes together as more of a, it's like, make it more cohesive, right, in the long run. In a way, I'd almost say, look, if you look back at Mystera is really cohesive. Every part is built and emphasized, but because it wasn't made by a certain person later, it's not that it's not a great realm or a setting. It's just forgotten because they weren't making the same money off it.
Yeah.
And that's
actually one of the Forgotten Realms writers, Slade. He's the guy who did the Netherall time travel stuff. So you could go back in time to when Netherall was still around.
And he made a box watching. I know you mentioned him. I was just watching your time travel deep dive. Geez, I honestly forget. I apologize the name, but I know who you're talking about. But I just like 2 nights ago, I watched your time travel deep dive. I think you mentioned the guy in that thing. I'm actually 100% sure you did. Yes.
Yeah, he was a lone wolf writer that didn't really gel with the rest of the Forgotten Realms writers, because of the whole time travel things, and they didn't like it. But yeah, and he's disappeared into the woodwork. He's a mysterious figure. He's still out there somewhere, driving around in some muscle car, wearing tight jeans, But that wasn't where I started in like professionally in the hobby. So my first published work was actually for Palladium, and this Rifts. Yep. I didn't write it for Rifts. I wrote it for Palladium Fantasy, but they folded it into Rifts, and that's where it kind of lives. So I wrote it in 2000, the year 2000, and it didn't get. I sent it in, and it didn't get published until
2003, right?
Yeah,
There you
in
go.
Rifter
Okay, okay.
23.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Blade
Right.
Mage. And it's a
Mhm.
classic example of somebody who's homebrewing something which is solving a lot of problems that were meant to challenge your character. So I thought this is a character that you would send in if you're running a solo campaign. So it's just you and the DM, and
Mhm.
you're basically playing a Jedi, essentially. And of course, people put the Blade Mage in a group with like, glitter boys and stuff like that. It works because he's damn powerful. But by
Yeah.
himself in a Palladium fantasy game in a group, oh, he just wipes the floor with things. Yeah, because he can create rune weapons and things
I
like that.
was going to ask you, but like, why was the guy so strong? But the second you say solo play, I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, Eureka! There's the. I don't have to ask you. There's a lot of things I have here planned to ask you that you're bringing up, so I don't have to
yeah,
ask you.
yeah,
So that's not a complaint though. That's cool. That
yeah.
is cool. That's your first actual published RPG.
That was the first thing I
title.
ever sent in, and I've got the unfortunate. This is the blessing and the curse, right? The
Okay.
curse is that everything I've ever sent in has been published, which is terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Because what happens to my mental state if something is rejected, and that happened. I sent in a monster to Cobalt Press for one of their monster books, and it was the Delicious Pink Ooze, and they rejected it because they thought it was like some sort of an adult thing, Delicious Pink Ooze. And I was like, no, it's actually a really clever. Oh well, okay, it got rejected. They weren't paying. I credit to them. They weren't playing favorites. They didn't cash in on my name or anything like that. They just looked at it and went, "Nah, that's not a good fit." I was like, "Did you read it?" Oh well, okay. It didn't make the cutting room floor.
Not very wise because you think they just ask you for a title change because if you go over to Japan, they almost not don't want to turn anything down. Anything they
Mm,
think they can sell, they'll just get it and go, or you're going to change the title. They won't
yeah,
reject you, like, oh, right, but it'd be change the title. Change the title
yeah.
and you can sell it. Change the character, you can sell it. It just
Well,
sounds like rejection without even the
the
consideration.
problem is that the name is really fitting for what it is. So it's a small pink in a nutshell. It's a small pink ooze that hunts by essentially scenting up. It'll approach you.
Yeah.
It'll spray a delicious flavor enhancer on you that makes you smell absolutely amazing, like
Mhm.
the best food ever to whatever predators are in the area.
Oh,
Then it
wow.
retreats and scuttles away and hides in a crevice. So it's actually got a very complicated tactic for an ooze. It's like a smart ooze.
It's such a
But in and
great
of itself,
dungeon creature.
yeah, yeah. I thought
Oh,
this is
my.
yeah, this is an opportunistic like little bastard essentially who makes your life difficult. He's not a threat in and of himself.
Because you wouldn't even
Um,
think that you're going to attract other. This is such an old school monster, and there's almost every. That's actually makes me feel bad because there's almost every old school monster covers everything you can think of. When somebody pitches some idea at me where it's like, because Gary and them were really on point covering just about everything. So the idea that you could even come up with something be really challenging, I'm like, the way you just explained to me is amazing.
yeah.
That's so sad that
It's got a genuine like ecology basis for it. Like this thing is an opportunistic predator. So what it does is it sprays you, you get killed or you kill something else, and then it comes in afterwards and cleans up the mess.
that is
That's
so
what it does.
awesome.
Yeah.
Players wouldn't know, especially a new player. That'd be so perfect. Because that's
Yeah.
in old school, we expect you to learn the hard way, right?
Yeah, it just escalates everything. So it's an agitator. So this happens in a campaign where it turns out that if you get the spray from this thing and you treat it through an alchemical process into a powder, it
Yeah.
turns into the magical flavor enhancer. Now, how this played out was there was a particular goblin barmaid in a town, and she started adding it to the onion dip that they were selling in this town. Eventually, all of the university students were addicted to it because it was a major magic academy in this town. So, like Hogwarts, emptied
Yep.
out, and they were flooding into the student bar essentially, and just the amount of onions that were required and the price of onions got so high that the farmers started ripping out all of their food crops and just planting fields of onions. Um, Meanwhile, yeah. Anyway, it was a great campaign. But just goes to show how something innocuous like that can be
like a
major.
title can destroy something so awesome because it just sounds like such an appealing thing. It saddens me that that got turned down
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's something that should have. I get why you sent it in now. Like, there's no way you can't see that as an incredibly great idea, right? Just a perfect, especially for the new player.
Maybe next
Experienced
time.
players, yeah, yeah, you should try it again. I would actually take another shot at that at one point somewhere
But
down the
anyway,
line. Yeah.
it's out there. It's out there. You know, I make YouTube videos about it and stuff. But this is the thing with my I'll do homebrew monsters every now and then on my channel, and
That's
if
awesome.
people have to ask me if it's homebrew, then I know that I've done my job well. It's like, that's great. Like, I did a yokai called an Onmaraki, and I did this creature called a Lurfin, which is basically an invasion of the body snatchers pod people thing. Um, so the reason why it reproduces people is usually it would just reproduce an insect, because the insect can fly away and then it explodes a short time later with seed pods, right? So that's how it reproduces. But what happens if an intelligent creature lies down next to this thing and and it reproduces them? You got the seed pod going, "Who am I? Who are you?" And then you got, "What do you mean I've only got 10 hours to live and then I explode and spore seeds everywhere?" It's like, yeah, that's what it is, dude. Yeah,
Oh,
very
man,
Harry
such
Potter shit.
incredible experience. Yeah, I imagine that was all gamed out. What was? Did you actually have it happen? Like when you were trying?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah.
such a great thing, man. Such a great thing. Jeez.
Oh, it's a great hobby. Yeah.
It is semi jealous of your ideas. There makes me want to try them now. I'm almost good. I guarantee I'm going to watch my own interview again on this and know some of these things down. We're done.
Yeah.
I did not know about these things, but I imagine a lot of people have already tried some of the things you're.
Yeah. Whenever I publish something like that, I'm just like, tell your players I said hi.
That's exactly it. No, I give total credit. You'll have no worries on that. I guarantee that. So, okay. Let's jump to the fact that we're back to Palladium. We're hitting Palladium quite a few times because you are a big fan. I know that's inspired a lot of what you do here. You made the rips. I know you made your new game with inspiration from that stuff. So, what are your thoughts about Eric and Kevin, Eric Wujek and Kevin Sabita, and their Palladium books and what they did with it? And
right. So I wish I had corresponded or met or talked with Eric Wujek, because he's one of those guys who is a legitimate genius, right? The origins of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is kind of steeped in a little bit of mystery, because originally there was a manuscript that was sent in, and apparently Kevin was not happy with some elements of this. This is a theme that carries on with Kevin a few times with stuff, that he's just not happy with the direction that it went, or whatever the writer sent in. But there was a kernel of really good ideas there, which was, mutant animal things. And this is topical because there was a wave of comics and stuff, teenage biker mutant mice from Mars or something like that, and various other things. And of course, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Eric and Liard. Eric Liard and the name of the artist, Eastman and Liard.
Eastman, I was gonna say I knew Liard. Eastman. I'm trying to remember the other name as well. Yes,
Peter Liard. Anyway, so then Eric Wujek is he gets this manuscript, and within a number of weeks, he wrote the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He wrote the Bio-E point buy system, and this is such elegant, just brilliant game design, where you start with size categories of your creature. So if you're small, you've got a lot more potential Bio-E points, bioenergy points that you can spend. If you're an elephant, you've got 0, but you're size level 80. So you shrink down and you spend your size levels to buy more Bio-E points. So in the end, it levels out, and there's a middle ground where you've got a character that can have a certain amount of human features that they have to buy, a certain amount of powers, which are a certain cost. He's just worked it all out in his head, and this is sort of intuitive. I know when he was doing this, it would have just come to him, right? He wouldn't have been sitting there with a piece of graph paper and working it all out. It would have just
gelled played out in real life. Players would sit there for, like, I remember, if you remember this, players could sit there for an hour and a half or 2 hours just making up a character or two, or trying to decide what they want to do. And it was such a good idea. They even carried it over to another game. I think the After the Bomb or something like that.
Yep. So a number of supplements came out. There was we didn't have mutant humans until Transdimensional Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where they had time travel and stuff. The time travel rules were wild. You had like, if I could, I'll just hit on a couple of points of his brilliance, right?
Go, yep.
One was in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and their idea of the world setting and those the Utrom aliens. This is the original stuff. This is before the syndicated cartoon series. Okay,
Yeah.
So this is in the books. One, they kill people in the RPG and the comics because they're ninjas, right?
Yep.
And Shredder kills people and the Foot kill people and the Turtles certainly kill people.
Yeah.
And Casey Jones certainly beats the shit out of people.
Well, it came out before the cartoon as well. So I mean, it really is just off the comic books, which were sort of a parody of Deadpool and stuff like that.
And this is the whole 1980s post Thatcher dark,
or Daredevil. When I say Deadpool, Daredevil, sort of a parody of
Daredevil.
Yeah.
And so we've got the Dark Knight Rises and the Killing Joke and Miller and the Watchmen and all that sort of stuff, like a lot of dark punk, subversive, counterculture comics and stuff that came out. This is after the comic rules were relaxed.
Yep.
Anyway, so it's very much punk, right? And so the aliens and the concept, the overarching concept, and the reason why this mutation thing came in the first place is the TCR aliens are trying to make a transmatter machine, so a teleporting machine that'll work across space. And the product of their high technology is mutagenic byproduct chemicals, essentially radioactive waste. Yeah. And the idea that Eric put into the whole world setting was that any advanced civilization will reach a certain level of technology where they essentially, like bacteria in a petri dish, will produce mutagens and byproducts of their technology, which will affect their species and mutate it to the point where there's no original species left and they turn into a bunch of subspecies. So it's a natural evolutionary process of intelligent life to differentiate themselves into different ecological niches through mutation that they themselves produce through their technology.
It was so good that the movies even they latched onto the game idea of this ooze stuff. I remember the movies were better. The cartoon was sort of hinting at it, but the idea was amazing. It really was amazing. It was so amazing that the original guys who made the thing went and said, okay, we're using this. When they got to the movies, I mean, the second movie is called The Secret of the Ooze or something.
Right.
But it is based on the concept of like leading into what you're talking about there.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
This is as high concept as like Frank Herbert's Dune, right? Where we're talking about the evolution of intelligent life, in the galaxy. And in the Teenage Mutant Guide to the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Guide to the Universe. Or Guide to the Galaxy, Guide to the Universe. So this is where we got the Triceraton aliens and the Spinax and the Tubers and the Deants and all of these species and the Catrib builders. So the Spinax and the Tubers are this case in point. They were once a cohesive civilization, like the Spinax, for instance, were a single civilization that had spanned the entire galaxy. And now they're the most lawless, mutated, diverse. The only thing that really unifies them is they occasionally have spikes, but really you would have no idea that you're talking to a member of the species. He could look like totally different from this one over here. This is a 4-foot porcupine. This is a 7-foot tall elven thing with 2 spiked ears, but they're the same species originally. And you're like, what? And they were once the galaxy spanning civilization, but they just descended into hedonism, lawlessness, and mutation and chaos. And now
that variation is the crazy part for the game. That's where a lot of people love, where you could just be a guy who was like 3 feet tall, but you'd be the same thing as the guy who's 6 feet tall over here or whatever it is. No, I get what you're saying. There was DNA was similar in many ways. But
after the bomb was post-apocalyptic, post-nuclear war situation where the humans were fighting. And there was also all of these mutant aliens, mutant animals. So every single animal that they could sort of shove in there was represented. So you could be a gazelle or a warthog or, lots and lots of rodents, lots and lots of smaller creatures because they usually had a lot more
It explained a lot of things. Have you ever seen like a weird thing? Like I remember watching One Punch Man, and at one point they're showing like animals that are people. They said, well, how do they justify that? And I'm like, They could just use the Palladium Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mutant gimmick. You could right away justify that into the whole setting because, like you
Yeah.
said, Eric came up with something genius. And anytime I seen something later where it's a show that would show like humanoid animals, I'd be like, I remember Dragon Ball Z. How do you get like a bear man? I'm like, well, Eric has a great explanation. Like
Yeah.
he actually does justify it. You could use it. I was surprised that that gimmick wasn't stolen for some anime at one point because they were known
So
for doing stuff like that all the
as
time.
far as I know, the role playing Hall of Fame has got like three people in there. As far as I know, I could be wrong on this one, and that's Dave Arneson and Gary Gygax and Eric Wujcik. So you could say that. But he was a writing team, and the team was him and Kevin Simbita.
Yeah,
and Kevin Simbita is a very good publisher and a very good organizer of things, and he's run that company very well for a long time. He's a little bit of a micromanager, but he's passionate about it and has maintained that passion the entire time.
He's not the creative. Eric was the guy who made the stuff. Kevin's the guy who put the stuff together.
So he's the good thing is that the bulk of the work was done. So the gaming system, the universal gaming system or megaversal gaming system. So that's the other aspect of the innovation. The only other universal rule system at the time was GURPS. And this means that you could run any sort of game setting. So you could have a Western setting or a sci-fi setting or a Call of Cthulhu setting or a, samurais or, Palladium
the
fantasy.
only difference is that Palladium's trying to sort of do universal with its own setting where GURPS just comes out and says, you do it.
Yeah.
Or if I just like, you do it.
Here's a handful of D6s, you work it out. Yeah.
But I told people that idea was there for a long time. I sort of did something similar with my Neo TTRPG system, which I have 2 games out for. But the idea is to come out with one thing I can use for all these different things going forward. But I said it shouldn't shock anyone. See, like World of Darkness to a degree is something in that vein. If you actually want to really calculate what it is, you go all these different games and you realize it's just a universal system.
Yeah, it's become the norm. It's become the norm.
And Gary, when he left, he was even trying to do something in the vein of the universal system.
Yeah. So like the Eberron, for instance, was designed when D&D was not a multiversal idea. So the idea that Eberron was part of connected to everything through planar space and stuff like that was foreign to it. So Eberron is really hard to interject because it's got its own outer planes, which is the moons and things like that. So difficult. Mystara has got an excuse because it's literally excluded from the rest of the multiverse because the Immortals have basically said that is so. So they've set up a barrier system around it so that you can't.
You got a justification for why you could say
very smart.
This can exist without it contradicting what the rest of what they made for it. But there's so many contradictions in poor D&D. But universal systems are natural. I always knew they would be a thing, and it's not really a bad move because I think the idea is, and I always agree with them. I hate the idea of just having I like the idea that the designer understands there's creatives like us out there, and so if they put out something, they might say maybe these guys don't want to spend $5,000 on games. Maybe they want to buy our game, and if they like our gameplay enough, maybe they want to try space with it. If it's medieval, maybe they want to try their own cowboy thing. And how do you develop game designers in the future if they don't have a source to go experiment with their own ideas? And a lot of our game designers that came forth were all guys that would take like D&D and we're going to try a modern game before modern D&D was out. And I know guys that actually did this and then go on to be game designers. I'm like, so creative. When I hear people in today's modern world argue for raw rules as written being the core and nobody should change anything and I'm like, dude, there's nothing wrong. I get there's a lot of uncreative people in the hobby that maybe just want to play a game as is. But
I wouldn't say they're uncreative. I'd say they like the challenge of working within restrictions.
Well, fair enough. But this is what makes you a better communicator than me. That's why you get the better YouTube stuff going on than I do, because you would say that, right? No, totally get you there. No, but I get it. I think there's room for everybody in the hobby. It's just when those guys also say the creatives, well, you shouldn't be doing that with the game.
Mm.
You should only be doing this. And so in a way, I think me and those guilty would both be guilty. Actually, you're the better communicator on this stuff than I am right there. That proves it. But no, I totally agree. It's like I think there should be room for everyone, but you shouldn't be ever telling someone who wants to take a game.
Yeah. No, my motto is your table, your rules, right? So everything I'm giving you is just resources. I'm inspiration, but I'm not the
I don't want
gospel.
to use language. Like I hate the idea of saying, well, that's not D&D, when the idea behind it is, it's like, okay, my fellow nerd, you might be right to a degree, but what's the purpose behind why you're saying that to that guy?
Yeah.
It is to pressure him to not try something different with it. And since I know that's why you're saying it, it's not that I disagree on the logical side. Yes, okay, that change is not D&D, but your purpose is not to be honest. Your purpose is to pressure that guy not to do that thing.
Yeah. It's a kind of phobia, like they're worried that it's threatening what their comfort zone is.
Yeah.
I can sort of understand that.
I'm not even insulted by with what he's done to certain things. Like, I mean, I get the lore and that behind D&D, but at the same time, I'm like you. I'm a guy who grew up with rule books in D&D. And when somebody says, "Are you concerned they're changing Forgotten Realms?" I'm like, I play with my own setting, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I grew up with like you rule books where you say, "Steven, are you married to Dragonlance?" Like, I beyond the game, the market stuff doesn't mean a lot to me. And I think if it like, look, of course I criticize some of the stupid things they're doing, but at the same time I go, we're in the new generation. D&D is owned by everybody. And so in that way, I'm with you. I rather quality. See, my argument is I'm with you. Quality should be the concern, not even the change. Change doesn't matter. Quality matters. And if your change is getting rid of potentially focusing on something to bring it together, to make it make sense, I'd rather that. But I don't care about differences that you're doing. I don't care about none of that stuff. And if somebody likes it today, that's fine. Because I always say this. Back in my day, if I took Forgotten Realms and didn't like something, I'd be like, all right, 100 years went by.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they'd be like, so my fellow nerds would be like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, it just means whatever you thought this place was, I'm going to make changes. And it's just because I want to put my stamp on it.
Yeah, I love there's a sub movement of Forgotten Realms, which is the Dark Forgotten Realms, which is like what happens if all the worst case scenario happen. Mine is the dragons, right? So now that they got rid of the Dragon Rage mythal and the giants have sort of fallen into a state of lawlessness, now the dragons are starting to reestablish themselves. And 2024 with their Fizzbands Treasury of Dragons book talked about great worms, and they really completed the idea of what dragons collect hordes for and turned them into these multi-planar beings that are really the source. They're like the lens that magical fields stabilize on a world, and so you can't have a magical world without dragons, and the dragons are the source, kind of like the worms in Dune, right?
Yeah.
So you know, they are the spice. They're the fucking spice.
There's part of me that wanted to go like, so George, or what did I say? George, Gary Gygax's son, Luke, did the work on Greyhawk. And I wanted to, like I said, man, I wish I could contact him. So I actually tried to contact him just to see if he responded. He never did. But I was going to suggest a project to him. So I'll say it publicly now, which is, what if you did Greyhawk before the magic destroyed it? Like, what if you did like an earlier version of Greyhawk? Like you're the son of Gary, great, and he did something amazing with Greyhawk. Why not do something new, amazing? Not just retrain what he did, but remember, there's a whole area of Greyhawk destroyed by the magic. There's a whole history. I'm like, that story's not been told, dude.
Yeah.
And what was the dungeon like? Maybe halfway through the process. What was these places like before they were built up? What other places stood? Right.
Yeah.
I'd love to see Greyhawk, the earlier age, or some like new version of the setting where it's Greyhawk. What was it like before the magic blew the whole place up?
Yeah.
It'd be such a great new project for WotC. And since they're open-minded to him, like I thought timing too, when I went to contact him, like they just did an apology to him about what they said about Gary. They apologized straight to him. This is a public apology they made to him. Now, I don't care what else they do, but they made a public apology, meaning they want to work with him. I'm like, and Luke is not the type to care about business. He look, if they badmouth my father and it was good to sell things, okay, I'm not going to hold it. He understands business. Cool. He's not going to be childish about this. Well, then, okay, all right. Why not say to Luke and the team he has, because he has a whole bunch of guys that have worked in the history of TSR, why don't you do something so brand new that it focuses on Greyhawk but goes back in time? And I'd
be interested to see that.
Yeah. I knew right away. It's just, like, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud, but I knew when I had the idea, I said, oh, I got an idea everyone will like. Yeah. Everybody from every walk of the D&D world will go.
You could do that with the Forgotten Realms. It's like, let's say you had an adventure where there's some great threat which is about to happen, like the Twisted Rune, the Cabal of Liches is setting up some sort of a super weapon, and you need to craft a ritual or something where the magic for it has been lost, and you need to go back in time to the former empires. So you need to go back in time to the height of Netheril, and talk with Karsus about shadow magic and condensed magic. And then you need to go to Ancient Namaskar and talk about portal magic. And then you need to go back to the creator races and talk to the Batraki before they turned into Slard. You know, you can do this in the Forgotten Realms. It's all there.
We always talk about they're going to add something new, but they haven't fixed up what they already have. I'm like, think about going back in time means you got a chance to tie things up.
Yeah.
You got to, when you go back in time in Greyhawk or Forgotten Realms, it's a chance to emphasize things, not break. Not add something new you haven't even worked when you haven't even worked in the rest. Why not use some backtracking in time to explain the future? Tie things together.
Because that's the thing. The Forgotten Realms is a living campaign setting, but it's got a huge you can't kick a stone without uncovering a bit of ruined past in that world setting. And that's what's so just magnifying about it, is like literally every single inch of it has been mapped out, and there's a history for everything. You can't pick up a plus. There's no such thing as a +1 dagger. You know, it's this is Niasil, forged by the elves of blah, blah, blah. You know.
Oh, in my mind was Luke has all these people that are still alive that could work with him.
Yeah.
And there's only so much time left. Now, I'm not trying to say that in some morbid way. I'm saying we've lost a couple people, but we still got some people left. And they definitely know some of this stuff well and care about it. You got Luke, who cares to do some work on this. And I mean, you put a team behind that with good leaders, you're fine.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And
if Wizards of the Coast could just like pony up some fucking money and pay these guys while they're creating it, don't because they're working writers, they're busy. They're making books and stuff. They've got collaborative writing projects and stuff. There's only so much they can do. So if you want to get a really good quality product that really magnetizes the fans back to the setting, you need to pay these guys a retainer, get them on board, give them leeway to create freedom. Don't silo them. Don't leave them in the dark. Don't do this whole cloak and dagger. Look what we've got coming in for. And don't chop it up into prepaid packages that you're selling online as fucking drop products.
And the old school guys that won't come back to them are not going to come back for Greyhawk 5e. But I said, what about earlier Greyhawk with Luke and the team of TSR guys working on the history?
Yeah.
Because I said, they said, old school guys said, there's nothing that would bring us back. And I was thinking about this before I went to talk to Luke. I was like, well, we'd do it. I'll be like, well, sorry, dude, I know this would do it.
Yeah.
There'd be too many old school guys that would want to hear what that story is.
Here's the really controversial idea, Stephen.
All right, throw it at me.
Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah.
None of these former editions are dead. They're all being played. So why not put out products for second edition, for third edition, for first edition? Put out new official products for stuff for old editions of the game. None of them are dead. They're all got player bases. You can support
and TSR
all of
did
them.
that. And TSR, Gary and them knew to do that. When he brought out AD&D 1E, they were still making Beckme products because they understood that. And it's like the OSR already shows you there is a market. So the OSR is showing you a market, and I would love to see it with second edition because the OSR ignores, sadly. Second edition is such a good game or such a good version of AD&D. I don't care what people say. At least gameplay wise, I get the the themes or whatever with first edition that would be more appealing to many people, but the gameplay from second edition is improved. It is improved. AD&D 1E. It's just AD&D improved. That's all it is. So if you like AD&D 1E, the gameplay for second edition should not be offensive to you at all. It should be something you're happy with to go from Battle Matrix to Simple Thaco. It works really well. But and the lifespan of second edition is longer than what people expected. It lasted through the third edition era. It was at least in active gaming, half the games you would go to a place would be 2E, 3E. 3E is probably one of the most successful WotC editions in live gaming there's ever been. Because 5E has not been a great live. You go to conventions or live plays or live places anywhere, there's not a lot. There wasn't a lot of 4E. Surprisingly, you got to give it to 3E. There was. I give it to 3. That's a real thing. But second edition was right alongside 3E, alongside 3.5 and Pathfinder. It outpaced fourth edition. Second ed did better than that. Still going, thriving. When 5E was doing its testing, second edition was still actively going at the same time.
Yeah.
I said.
But what dwarfs them all though is basic, of course, because basic was running along all sides of them. And Frank Etzer at the moment he's got. Oh God, this is so frustrating.
Because Frank
doesn't have that much longer on this earth with us. He acknowledges this, and he's now archiving a lot of his stuff and tying up some loose ends, right? And one of the things that he's tying up and wants to get done is his completed work on the Immortals. If ever there was an important part of D&D that needs to get officially supported and turned into a product, it is that, because that is the end gameplay of the entire fucking game. Yeah, it's So
there's been a clash. It's weird. I hope WotC goes in a different direction because they've had a staff and people working there that has been opposed for probably reasons that aren't totally to do with gaming to the old school. Let's be honest. That's part of the reason that happens. And I hope with the sign with Luke, that ideas like that get put on the back burner and they go back to the sort of the neutral world of it doesn't matter who has a label above them, politically, religiously.
Oh, let's talk about Janelle Jacques for a second here.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So we got a transgender person who is one of the pivotal designers of dungeon crafting in the entire world. Adventure Craft, she wrote the goddamn book on adventure crafting. She is so amazingly productive during her life. She should be on a fucking stamp with a rainbow flag on it, you know? So does she get a mention by these people? No, because they don't study any of the law. They don't study any of the history or anything like that. They just came into the hobby.
And she should be somebody.
Here's an icon of their entire fucking movement. And does she get acknowledged at all? No.
That's the level of ignorance you get with the people that are working there, which is like, geez. Because even I know who you're talking. Even the old school will acknowledge who you're talking about there. It's like, well, the old school is so bad. Why do they acknowledge her?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the crowd that should be the blue-haired people aren't acknowledging her. When old school will still sit there and go,
our entire hobby has been about bringing in all the misfits, you know?
We have a great history. I hate when they paint it as bigoted because I remember back in the day we were ahead of our time.
Yeah.
Ahead of our time. Anybody who showed interest sat at the table.
Yeah.
That's it. And we're a very liberal hobby. I'm not liberal myself, but I understood that's who I was gaming with, but we were ahead of our time. So when they talk about the bigoted history of the gaming hobby, I'm like, you're a liar and you're pretending that we need heroes when we don't.
Yeah. Prove it. Show us. Show us.
Just celebrate what we're
bring out the evidence.
Yeah, we've had women lead companies. We've had women create things. We've had all this done. We've had famous people, gay people, or like you said, this trans woman. We've had all that because everyone's welcomed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So why do we have to reach it? Why aren't we? If they're going to say, well, we're more welcoming, I'm like, no, we've always been welcoming. The difference is now we're more socially accepted. Yeah. That's what has more people coming in. When these people come in, like when I see a black guy in one of their commercials going, well, I'm here because there's more black characters representing the books. I'm like, well, I know black nerds all my life. They didn't care about that.
No.
Oh, the second they seen a nerd game, it didn't matter if you were white, pink, or green on the front of that thing. They knew what they liked. I know lots of black guys that love Lord of the Rings. Never needed a black knight in it to go enjoy Lord of the Rings. No. And none of them ever said that ever turned them off or anything. I said, these same people that you're saying today are people that would have never gamed with us back then because that would have been a social hit on them. and they're more concerned with what people think of them. When we get to nerds, anybody, gay, black, whatever, they all played D&D. We
Yeah.
had nations of people that
Why
were
did
Asian.
girls not by the majority play D&D? Because they didn't want to, not because they were excluded. Every single girl that ever wanted to play D&D. Do you think we said no? Are you insane?
And there were all kinds of games made that was solely to appeal to them. You can't say Castle Polkenstein was made for a bunch of guys in the hobby. Call of Cthulhu was made completely neutral for gameplay. All kinds. There was romance games we had from Mike Pond Smith coming out that was all about the teenagers from outer space. That's not made for just guys. It's made for anybody. And its designers acknowledging we do have women already in the hobby playing.
Yeah.
So they're making games that are more neutral. Where you won't think,
we have learned though that cuteness is actually the kryptonite. So there's a lot more cuteness and cozy cool games and stuff like that. You know, mouse games and you know.
I like some animal games. I really do. I like the Moscar thing. I mean, I've heard of it. I want to try that one. Bunnies and Burrows. I ran it. Fantastic game. If I mean for role play interest, associating with groups, like just so much. Like, and if you get someone who can appreciate the game without just wanting to fight all the time, and you like the real negotiate, deal with groups, how can you play? Like, if you have no creative bone in your body, maybe that's generic and boring to you. But if you have even the slightest bit of creativity, Bunnies and Burrows it's just amazing.
If I can bring it back to my little.
Oh yeah, we're going to get to that now. Actually,
so this I set out with a couple of things in mind. One is that I wanted a simple game, so it's a mechanically very very simple game. It's as rules light as it gets. Really, you've got one dice roll determines everything. There's no modifiers or anything like that. We have added in advantage and disadvantage. Yeah, it is all hand drawn.
Hold that up again. Hold that up again. Like, please take that.
Here's the dice roll table.
Look at the art, man. That is amazing.
Let me just. Amazing. This is my cat Spooky. He's got his magic. He's got his super cat suit. That is actually the head is a cat carrier. Because I figured why not? So
and the rules back up the art because many of the options in that game is pretty awesome. Go on.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep flipping to images as I go through. So the idea is that I wanted a game that was you could just pick it up and play it. So super accessible. Anybody can play this game. I've even got on the margins of the pages, you'll notice that there's dice, right? So you can just flip if you don't have dice on you, and this is very important for people who are in prison because they can't get dice. So me and Taryn Pounds came up with this idea at the same time. He put it in his Vagabond game, and I put it in my Super Atomic game, independent of each other. We hadn't even discussed it.
Awesome.
So yeah, dice. You can just flip the pages to roll dice. Yeah, literally.
Oh, genius. No, that's 1,000,000% awesome. Yes, I get what you're saying. That's like random. Boom, that's my roll.
Yeah.
That's genius. That is genius.
So the idea is that you just roll up a character randomly, and we give you some guidelines on what you roll on, and the tables are deliberately very, very like I put as many options in there as possible, and I saved room by essentially stripping all of them of rules and just giving you concepts. So it tells you what the powers, the superpowers and things generally are. Like Mentat, you think at supernatural speed and complexity, able to solve problems or come up with solutions as fast as a supercomputer. Do I give you any game stats? No, because there aren't any game stats. You don't have any attribute bonuses or negatives or anything like that. You don't have hit points. You've just got 5 stress boxes, and they're not necessarily physical damage. You could take a mental hit as well. It's all depending on during the gameplay what makes sense and in the moment.
I'm just going to say, common sense of the game master is where you're leaning on, and that's for speed of play.
Yeah, because this is a conceptual game. It's a game of story and action and gameplay, and I want the action when it happens to be fast paced and fluid. Not light because of lightness sake, but light because of the subject matter, because you cannot make a rule system that covers the entire superhero genre because it includes everything. Yeah. You could be on Mars, punching out giant robots 1 minute, and the next minute having a complicated inter-gang intervention, because of some subversive magical drug formula. It could be anything. We originally, because this is the second edition of it, the original edition, I was working with this other guy, and he had included some AI artwork that I was not aware of. Like, for instance, the map of the city that he put in there was Gotham City from Arkham thing.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that he was just painting over a copyrighted image. So they got taken down from Drive-Thru RPG, and I worked on it, and we did a lot of play testing and added in the play rules that we had developed, which was adding advantage and disadvantage in the stress boxes to it. And at the time, and I frantically did a lot more artwork to replace all of his stuff.
It looks amazing what you have now. And this is up on Drive-Thru as well, right?
Yeah, it is right now. This is, by the way, if you could recognize that character, I turned what's the guy from The Boys? Shit.
Oh, I know. Character. Yes, that's him. Yeah.
That's Butcher. He's been cyborged.
Cyborg Butcher.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's like a lot of parts of the game is where if the DM really feels like, yeah, you could knock that guy down there, give it your power and him, just say yes.
Bit of age representation, talking about inclusive for everybody. That's Burn Annie.
Yeah, I love that. Granny warrior. Granny superhero warrior. Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, as I progressed during the year, I got more complicated in my ink work. That's actually the three designers, me and Fred Wheeler and Wally DM.
Yeah, I know who
Robot 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, with the Medusa deadline behind us.
We talked about this with Heroes Unlimited, but actually looking at your game, I think your game might even be better for it, which is that Hero Academia.
Yeah, My Hero Academia. Yeah, exactly.
You could do something similar with this right here. Yeah, perfect.
Bunch of bad guys with a death ray in the background.
Such great ideas. They all look fantastic, man. I could tell you're really like, I could tell from the Heroes Unlimited talk we had before you mentioned this game that you were a big person into it. But it was like you also appreciate gaming.
Yeah.
And there's a special niche to that because a lot of guys that do the hero stuff, they try to put too many rules, or they try to do the comic book thing with the DC heroes. Or I'm like, you got to find balance, trust the game master, pass over some trust to a good gamer knows that part. And you're a gamer. See, I'm not the hero fan that you are. You're the hero fan, but you're also a gamer. That combination makes that game perfect. Like, personally, I am going to play it. I'm going to run that. I've already talked to my personal group, which just ended at World Darkness. So we're going to do that. I guarantee it. We're going to do that. So I actually do my own coverage on my experience with it. I'm not going to do like a fact base because I got you on here talking about your own game, but I am going to do definitely some coverage on the game I'm going to run with it. And the guys are excited. I would also say,
I can give you a couple of bits of advice on running this that you won't expect. One is you're going to get through a lot of game a lot quicker than in your regular game. So plan to cover 6 hours worth of content in 3 hours if you're playing for 3 hours. Yeah,
double your efforts all the time.
Double your efforts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stick with like the modern world, but just set it like a few years, like a few months in the future, and add something really weird to it. Like when we did the playtesting originally, it was like, okay, it's an alternate future. Donald Trump has won the election again, and it turns out that he actually did, and we all thought we were in fucking bizarro world. But yeah, and Joe Biden's a robot that's being operated by an alien, and you have a meeting with him in a garage, and you have to. Yeah, there's an alien ship which has arrived. We had like super lasers burn into the moon, like in the Tick comic. We had stuff always blows up.
Recently, they've been doing all those drops for the UFO stuff, so that might be
a good sort of background. That's a perfect storyline. Yeah, that's a perfect storyline for Super Atomic. So think the Tick, think Mystery Men, think My Hero Academia, think The Boys. You know, that sort of street level. Crazy. There's a lot of powers and stuff there which are just designed to be funny. Like, so for instance, one of the minor powers is you've always got $20, or you can like wherever you are, you can call a taxi. You know, some of them are absolute just godsends to the DM, which is your character can just detect a clue to the next part of the story in whatever scene they're in. It's like the natural CSI. It's just like, oh, just hand them the next bit that they need to go to. It's like none of this prevaricating around. You're like, oh, roll an
the perfect thing
investigation
is
check.
keeping it relatable in the real world and not setting it like far into the future. You're not going to do a lore dump with this game.
No,
It's not a lore
no.
dump game. And
There's
every
no
player will understand
investment. You
this.
don't have to learn, like, the rules is like 4 pages. So, and you can gloss over that. You can literally just describe this to somebody as they're sitting down at a convention table and say, okay, roll me a bunch of roll me some percentile dice, or, you know, and they'll go, wait, I've got to roll 4 dice. It's like, yeah, because it's a D1000 table, so it's thousands.
Well, like
you know,
I'm going to
hundreds,
actually,
tens, ones.
I live in Nova Scotia, Canada. So I'm actually going to turn that into the place where I'm going to start the game. And so anybody who buys this game, you could either do where you know, or you could do local. Like it's like you said, maybe do a twist.
Nice.
It's like
I've got
what
some
you're saying.
ancestors from Nova Scotia, some good old blue nose sailors. Yeah.
That's where we're fishermen and Navy people. But I'm definitely going to do something down here. I think I love it. I already got guys that are going to run it at HellCon. I'll do a little report back on that, because they want to try it at HellCon now. There's 2 guys that are going to actually take it and do it, and if they like it enough, they're going to tell people where to go buy it.
Oh, nice.
I've already been asked, and I said I'll check if it's on drive-through and that. I'm pretty sure they'll know by now without me needing to tell them, because these guys want to sell your game for you. But they want to run it, and then if people ask at the end, well, where do we get the game? It's like go order.
Yeah, it's print on demand on drive-through RPG. So
yeah,
it's there for everybody.
And it's easy, accessible, fun, quick. But yes, man, I really look. I hope you enjoyed this interview.
Oh, it's been great.
Yeah, great conversation, and I hope we can do something like this again. Like this the interview. Next time I can bring you on, we can chat about gaming, maybe bring up some other subjects and that. But I mean,
we could do some actual gaming
for real. Maybe Palladium, maybe even the hero thing, maybe even some of this on Atomic Hero.
Yeah.
Right? That'd be great, right?
Show it in action. Yeah.
But I'm 100% up for that for sure, man. I am. I'm really glad we connected like this, right? And your work and your history is awesome. So people are going to learn. Somebody who doesn't know you is going to learn a lot about you today. People that already know you, well, they know.
I'm just this guy, you know.
Maybe we dropped a few little new gems in there somewhere, but I really appreciate that. Hope everyone.
If anybody's watching, you want to get in contact with me, I'm on Discord all the time. You can just email me via my YouTube channel. I answer any questions. Like if you ask me questions about your campaign, not so much character builds or game rule mechanics stuff, but like if you want some conceptual help with your game, I'm always happy to do that. Yeah, anybody.
That's awesome. I will definitely link your channel. Not that I really have to oversell AJ Pickett. But yes, I'll put a link down for AJ's channel that people can go check out. I'll put that up right after I get this up. Okay, man. All right, guys. I love you. I appreciate everyone's time. I appreciate you, AJ.